What is up, YouTube? It is your boy Def, back at it again with a review this time of Returnal for the PS5. I wanted to do a review after I beat the game and kind of did a little bit of exploring and stuff like that. And I'm going to talk about some good stuff about the game, and then I'll talk about the bad stuff in the game. And yeah, so I want to first start off, and I guess I'll start off with the good stuff, right? I personally liked the guns, and I like that you can level up your weapons and give them extra skills, and they can do extra damage in their own specific way. I thought it was a bit different, and it kind of makes me wonder if, for example, I personally think the shotgun is pretty trash, to be honest. But makes me think how good the shotgun would be if I actually worked on it, and what exactly would it have if it was in if I pretty much leveled up a good amount and to see what it could do close range. But other than that, my most favorite gun was it was like an LMG, purple bullets. I forgot what the name of it, but I liked the skills that I had, where it would shoot these waves, and at the same time it would summon this dark orb, and it would like shoot like a laser. So it was all these things hitting your enemies at the same time, which it all added up, and then you see the health just completely deplete, and you just go right through the like bosses or like yellow orange bar enemies. It didn't matter, and that was pretty much my gun to go, and that's pretty much how I kind of just went through the game. And the next thing I'm going to be talking about is enemies. I personally think the enemies were actually pretty cool. The only bad thing I didn't really like about enemies is that there was not many, right? And not only that though, but for example, in the beginning, I only ran. I rarely ran into the enemies, the green ones that kind of like slowed you down and poisoned you and stuff like that. I barely ran into those. I barely even saw them when I first started the game, and when I went through my second playthrough on Act 2. I really didn't see them that much, but other than that, the enemies I liked how, man, the robots, the flying robots that shoot the missiles, those were annoying. If you didn't dodge those missiles that it shot at you, your health was gonna go down. And if it wasn't the missiles, that's when you're about to kill it and they just kamikazes and try to kill you with it. And at first it almost killed me a couple times. But I thankfully on my first on Act 1 I actually didn't die. I actually went through it all, and kind of just went through it pretty good. Made some decisions and got through it. So that led me to the enemies. The bosses, man, where do I start with the bosses? Out of all the bosses, I want to say the one that caught my attention the most, well, I would say is the piano one. It was just something different, you know. It was just something like you just go and you just see this monster just on the piano, and then he just turns around and just starts just throwing everything at you. Out of all the bosses that you fight in the game, I think that one was the one that really like caught my attention. Well, it was the one where I was just like, oh man, this is a good fight. Don't get me wrong, there was other bosses that were good, but this boss was the one where, and like it caught my attention. It made me like really pay attention to this specific boss. The second one would be the one in the desert, the flying one. That one was unique as well. It was different, and I liked where I think it was at the end of the first phase or in the beginning of the second phase, where he would just fly, and it kind of reminded me of Mega Man X when you will fight the bird the one that did a purple tornado. Like he will come and fly from one side of the screen and then fly from the other. He did something similar to that, and it kind of reminded me of that, and I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, the bosses are, I like the designs, and I thought I was gonna fight other things. Don't get me wrong, but other than that, the bosses were, I enjoyed them. But the one that caught my attention the most was the piano one. Um, the next thing I want to talk about is going to be the loop, right? This game, it punishes you if you don't go on an adventure around, because if you just think you're just gonna go straight to the boss and everything's gonna be a-okay, that's not gonna be it. And they kind of like, they don't force you, but at the same time it kind of makes things pretty easier, and when you actually go around the other areas and and solve the little puzzles, I guess, and or not really puzzles, but just get through the areas, and some places where you will go underneath ground, and then you have to fight like a boss, or a strong enemy, or just like a where the lasers will fly by, and you kind of have to use your dash to get through. And if you didn't dash correctly, you'll get punished for it. And this game, you get losing health is it's pretty bad, and that's probably one of the worst things you want to happen to you is lose health when you want to increase it. And that's another thing that I liked, is that when you were at full health, and there was not only when you were at full health, but there was also other ways for you to increase your health. And I loved the idea of how you increased your health, because it made you make choices, right? And in this game, there was a lot of choices that you had to make, where you, like the parasites. There's parasites that come with a positive and a negative, right? And sometimes some of these parasites were like, you looked at it and there was no reason for you to even look at it twice. There were just some that the worst one was when on my second run through, I tried to work around a parasite where if you picked up any item, you would take damage, right? And I tried to work around that with the build that I was having at the time, because and this game it reminds me, well, it is kind of pretty much, but it's similar to Curse of the Dead Gods, right? I never played Hades. I don't have a PC, or I don't have a Switch, so I can't really speak upon that game. But I heard a lot of good things about it. But it reminded me of pretty much whatever you have, you work with, and if you can make it, you can make it. If not, then you kind of like just gonna end up dying. And my second playthrough, I died a couple times. I died 6 times on my second playthrough, and I tried to work around the things that I was trying to not only work around what I had, but at the same time I wanted to try something different, right? I believe I could have beat it in my first try as well. If not my first try, my second try, if I actually didn't go and try to do things differently, because then it kind of would have like killed the fun. But I just had to end up just going a specific way, and from there just beating the boss from there. Another thing will be the gameplay. The game felt nice. It felt everything that I would press, it happened. There was never a situation where I was like stuck, unless there was enemies around me. Then that was a different story. But there wasn't really times where I felt like the game was buggy, or like I never had. Well, the time that I played, I never got a blue screen on the game. I never everything, when I press run and I would press dash, run dash, run dash, everything worked. Everything was going smooth. There was nothing that I can complain about the gameplay. So one thing that I did say on a reaction video of this game was when they showed the enemies, and one of pretty much my concern was that it wasn't gonna be like a Metroid, a Castlevania, type of game, what is usually called as Metrovania, right? But the thing was that I didn't think the game was gonna be what it is or what it was, right? I didn't. From what I understood was that when you come into this planet and everyone was gonna have a different map or environment, and you weren't gonna have the same one all the time, which is not the case. Like, let's not sit here and BS around. A lot of places, kind of like, if how can I say this? When you start off, like if you actually memorize like parts of the environment, like for example, in the beginning, the forest, right? If you remember some places of the environment, you'll end up noticing when you go back there again, or you go back multiple times, that there's just the parts are just mixed and matched, where the parts that you normally went towards the end are in the beginning or mid. It just all gets put differently. It's not in a way to say they're completely different and that's really about it. Don't get me wrong. There was some times where it did look different, but just because you looked at it in a different way. But I just wasn't really a fan of that, because I actually thought that the maps were gonna be that huge of a difference, and I ended up memorizing a lot of things where I'm like, okay, well, if this item's here, then my left hand side I can drop down, and sure enough, I could drop down. So there were just things that you kept maybe memorized what was going on. You pretty much kind of had an idea of where stuff was already at, right? And now to go back to what I was saying is, I love the fact that you got pieces of gear for your suit, or pretty much from the aliens, and you put them on the suit where you got the grappling hook, or where you got for your legs so you can swim. I don't know why that was even a thing, for you to put on your legs so you can be underneath water, because there's also a thing you can put on your back, I believe, on your back or on your head, I don't remember, but where you can touch that red, I don't even know what it was, but it's that red gooey thing where you touched it, it did damage to you, and it wasn't a good time. But I get things like that from like Metroid or Castlevania and stuff like that, where you got things that let you progress, or it helped you get to certain things in the map where you normally could have not. I personally I've always been a fan of things like that, because it just gives you new things and things of to try out. And I my first playthrough, and then me going back the second time for act number 2, knowing that I could go now and use like the hook, stuff like that, and the sword, it changed it up, because now I felt like I wasn't leaving things behind. And at the end of the day, that was pretty much was one of my concerns, was no matter what I did, I couldn't do nothing about it unless I had something specific, which pretty much there was no point in me staying at a specific side of the map trying to figure out what was going to happen unless I had the items. So other than that, the whole gear thing, getting the parts for your suit, and being able to do all these extra things, I personally enjoyed that. I thought that was a good on my side. I didn't think it was going to be like that. I thought it was just going to be, you go there and you pretty much I thought it was gonna be something not exactly, but more towards like Curse of the Dead Gods, where in the beginning you get to choose from like 4 different tables. It'll be randomized weapons and shield and stuff like that, and from there you'll go. Right, so that's what I thought it was gonna be, but that was not it. That wasn't the case. So now, on to the bad stuff. Right, where do I start? And I'm gonna start off with right now. This is like spoilers, right? So if you don't really want to hear like spoilers, then I would just leave this right now. So right now is the chance. If you don't want to hear no spoiler stuff, right? I don't really think I really ruined anything that I have said before, besides the bosses. But I mean, yeah, these are pretty much bigger spoilers. Anyways, the ending. The ending. I didn't like it at all, right? I have yet to get the secret ending because I went back and I did a live stream, right, where I went back because I thought that me going back and beating everything all over again, there would be pretty much a different ending, and it was not. That was not the case. I did feel like the enemies were a bit more tougher. Maybe I'm overreacting on that, but I just felt like things were just a bit more different than it was the first time, because the first time I ran through everything really, and the second time, the second time around, me going back to like the beginning, it was a bit different. There was like statues that were healing everybody. There was enemies with red shields. There were like, normally it was just the turrets that had red shields, but there was just other enemies that had red shields, and like the enemies felt more aggressive than they did the first time. But like I said, I could be over exaggerating on that end. But the ending was okay. I've seen the secret ending, right? And even at the secret ending, because this is something that I'm going to get to next, so I won't really talk too much about it. But the secret ending was really not what I was expecting, and it kind of left me in the situation where it's like, okay, well, is that it? Like, there's got to be more, right? But there isn't more besides what you got given for the secret ending. Which I don't like, that you have to do certain things to get the secret ending. And one of the most things that I hate is something that's random, something that's RNG. And I hate RNG, and especially how these maps are different and in their own way, right? Like I mentioned, there's not that huge of a difference, but still, it's not only is the map different, but it has. I saw that it has a chance for you to get these things. Like for example, the forest, the desert, the ice place, the robotic place, what else was it? The water area, and the one area where it's underneath water, and there was another area where before you went underneath water. So each one of these places, you had to get 6 things. I forgot what they're called, but and then you have to, after you do all that, you still have to go home to the house, and you have to go through certain cinematics in a certain order, and then you can get the secret ending. I'm not a fan of that, to be honest with you. I've never been a fan of stuff like that, especially when it's random. It left a bad taste in my mouth. It kind of made me not want to continue anymore, because it was just, at this point, I just had to just get lucky. And I was all, like, I enjoy the game, but this is what's gonna lead to my next thing is me going back. There's no reason for me to go back, right? There's no reason for me to go and say, you know what, I want to go back and I'm going to get these things and to pretty much get the secret ending, right? Well, I can't, because it's random, and pretty much if I go through the whole stage and I don't get what I wanted, then I have to restart it again, and it's just not it's not it for me, because you can choose, right? And this is another thing that don't get me wrong, I understand why they did it, but when you go back and you go through your playthrough again, right, you can choose to fight the bosses or not. And on my second playthrough, I had defeated the guy in the piano, the boss. I had defeated him, but just obviously for the content, right? But also just to prove that I could do it again. I went back and fought him, and then I still went ahead and beat Act 2. And you could skip all that, right? There was no reason for me to fight him, right? But I just did it for shits and giggles. But other than that, there was no real reason for me to go back, and for me to actually go back and say this is something I can go back to. And it kind of just it left me in a spot where it's just like, so there's no hard mode, there's no there was just certain things that I wish they could have been a bit different. Where I was thinking, right? I was like, okay, well, you know what? What if I want a specific weapon? Now that I beat the game, right? Why can't I start off with a specific weapon? And you always get start off with your pistol, which it's kind of a bummer. But I wish there was an option after you beat the game where it's like, okay, well, now you can choose what weapon you want to go in there with. Where if you want to see how this weapon is, or if you want to just do a whole playthrough of just this one specific weapon, which I was thinking of, okay, well, you know what, maybe I want to do a whole playthrough of just the shotgun, or a whole playthrough of just the pistol, or whatever, right? I can't really do that unless I get lucky and get the weapon. So there goes another reason why, like, it's random and it's just time wasted, and it's not really, it doesn't sit well with me. So this will be my last thing that that pretty much is like this one was the one that bothered me the most, and was the last boss, right? You beat the game the first time, Act 1, right? You beat it, and then you fight the big monster that switches up the platform and stuff like that. And after that, you go back and then you fight the monsters underneath the water, right? When you're on the ground or on the water and stuff, right? And then when I saw the cutscene of the black orb, and then it turned into like it had like red eyes, and it was like a octopus type of thing, right? When I saw that, I said, okay, so this is the final boss. So this is where Act 3 is gonna come in, and then pretty much I'm gonna fight a whole different set of enemies, well, bosses at least, and from there, this is gonna be the real challenge. Well, that wasn't the case, and I was really disappointed in that, because I got the way that I took this, right, was because I didn't know at first I was a bit confused, because after I beat it the first time, after I beat Act 1, you go and do Act 2, right? And then you fight different bosses. So the way that I felt after you beat Act 2, things were still left incomplete, or like there were still things that you wanted to know, or just, okay, well, now I know who's the real boss, so now I'm gonna deal with you, or get to you, or like, right? That wasn't the case. You don't even get to fight what kept on messing with you, or you don't get to fight what is the reason why you keep coming back, if that makes sense. The black sphere that turns into that black octopus red eye monster. I thought you were gonna fight that, and then I still thought you were gonna fight two different bosses. Well, there were each act had three bosses, so that's what I thought the case was gonna be. That wasn't the case, and it really left me bummed out. I went back and I beat it again, like I had said before, and I thought because things weren't the way I didn't think this game was gonna be left like that. So I thought, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I have to beat it again, and then from there I'll fight different bosses. You don't fight different bosses. The only thing that changed is the bosses and the bosses in the first three levels now have like extra attacks, or not even extra attacks. Well, some enemies do have extra like different attacks, but something different that they throw is the purple attacks, right? The purple attacks, you can't go through them. But that really, if you actually just can play safe, you're really not gonna die. You'll get hurt sometimes, right? I mean, you just get clumsy sometimes, but it's not in the point to tell you a huge difference. And me finding out how the secret ending is, and finding out that you don't actually like fight anything different, that was not it. That was not it for me. That was not what I felt like I was being led to. I thought that all these things were going on. Wait a minute, you don't even fight a second one. Now that I think about it, you don't fight as 2-3 different bosses on Act 2. You only fight 2. you fight the piano, and then you fight the underwater. Because I remember when on the stage right after the other forest where you fight the piano guy, you go through the whole area, and that's when you get to go on underneath water, and you don't fight nothing. And I thought you were, and that kind of led me by surprise that it took so much longer for me to fight another boss, which ends up being the last boss. And Act two was not it. The way that Act 1 was like, I would have preferred Act 2 be Act 1 and then Act 1 be Act 2, if that makes sense. Like, I would have preferred the first act to have 2 bosses, kind of set you in on what's going on, and then Act 3 is like, okay, now if we're gonna get through it, and now if we're gonna just give you all these bosses, these 3 bosses, and all this nonsense is going on. As much as I want to continue not complaining, that was just one of my main things, was that the way that a game ended was not it for me. And I'm not gonna sit here, I'm not gonna say that the game wasn't good. The game was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I ended up playing the game before I did this other playthrough. I played the game for like 10 hours and a half, and I died. On my first Act 1, I didn't die 1 time. And Act 2, I died 7 times. But that's because I was trying to do different things. I was trying to play differently. But I got to a point where, like, you know what? I'm just going to go and I'm going to play this the way that I played the first time, and I ran through it. I felt so confident when I played the way I wanted to, that there was no reason for me to worry. And when I defeated the boss, I guess the final boss, I was so prepared that not only did I have heals, but I also had the other items that increased the amount of heals that I get for 60 seconds. So I wasn't going to die anytime soon. And by the time when I was done with them, I think I still had over half I had like 75% of my health still. And it was just that really bummed me out, was the boss. With the way that they kind of like left Act 2, was the way that Act 2 was left, or was the way they came about Act 2, was I just would have preferred it would have been done different, my personal opinion. But other than that, don't get me wrong, the game is really good, and if you have a hard time, the best thing I can say is just make sure you go everywhere, and make sure not to be too reckless. Sometimes you have to go for it. You have to open up these chests, and you have to go up and get these things you need to get, because at the end of the day, if you're not using the weapon that you personally like, you're going to have a bad time. That's just me being honest. There's been times where on my second playthrough, on Act number 2, where when I was going through and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna switch weapons, and then because this one's stronger, and then out of nowhere I died, because even though it was stronger, I never really played with the weapon, and I didn't have no skills or anything like that, and I just got wrecked, and I died. But other than that, you guys, I'm gonna leave it at that. I thought the game was good. Don't get me wrong. The game was. I enjoyed the game. It actually kept me on my toes. But after you beat the game, that's kind of like, if you really want to go back and do things, that's really up to you. But it's random, and I can't do that. That kind of kills it for me. But the game was good. But other than that, you guys, that's it for this one. Give your boy Def a like, subscribe to your boy Def if you have not yet. The next game we're gonna be playing on this channel will be Resident Evil Village. And before this, I'm gonna finish. After this, I'm going to be finishing up Nier Replicant, the remake. I'm almost done with that as well, so I'll finish that up before Resident Evil comes out, and from there, we'll see what's up after that. But other than that, you guys, see you until next time.